Hello guys, we are back with another video today, and today we are going to look into the async code a bit more. And so the agenda of today's lecture is we wanna see the benefit of async code, downsides of callback, basically the disadvantages of callback, and why we need to use the new style promises. So introduction to promises will be the next thing we'll be looking, and then we'll be looking at the end about the async and await. So these are the things we'll be looking into today's lecture. So first we'll start with the benefit of the async code. So the benefit, what some of the benefit what I can think of is it gives us a better performance. Our code will actually be faster because we can perform other tasks while waiting for a asynchronous function to finish running, because we don't have to wait for that function. Let just um, start doing something else in between the async code, because async code will have some wait delay, and in between we can do something else. So that means that we are not waiting for anything and we can perform other thing, and that's why our thing will be faster and we get the better performance. Also, we can start multiple requests processing data while we are waiting for some asynchronous code to complete. On top of that, our user interface won't freeze anymore and user will think that our code is faster. So these are the benefits of async code. Now, as explained earlier, or we have touched that we can for using async code, we need to either have callbacks or promises. So we already have introduced this thing in the previous lecture. If somebody has not watched, I would say the first watch that video, and like please watch the promises playlist from beginning and then come to this lecture, because everything is linked. So yeah. So now coming back to the callbacks and the promises. So we have already introduced this thing before. Now we'll see what are the downsides of the callback. Like callback was fine. Um, this is something which has helped us in working with async code, but it has some downsides as well. So I'll have some code snippet to understand it more. So I'll have that. So as we have discussed in the previous lecture, that if we have some async code like we have here, so we can provide some callback. So callback is nothing but a function which is passed as an argument. Now in the job one function, what we can see that we have a callback, and after the set timeout we are running that callback. So this is about job one. Similarly, we have job two, and what we want is, we want when we call job one, then we are passing a new function to it. So if you are seeing whatever I have highlighted, this is a function that has been passed as a callback. So once job one we are calling, we are passing this function. So the job one is right here on the top, and if you see that expects and callback means that expects a function and we are passing a function while we are calling it on line number 20. And you can see that inside callback what we have written that console the data, and then call job 2. So that basically what we are trying to do is we are calling job 1, and we know that whatever callback we are passing inside job 1 will only get called when job 1 finish its operation. And inside job 1 callback we are calling job 2, means job 2 will get called once the job 1 is finished. And then inside job 2 we are again passing a callback, as you can see from here, and we are consoling the data here. So now, by looking into this code, what you can see is that we want to call job 2 after job 1. Job 1 takes a callback as an argument. This job 1 is taking a callback as an argument. Therefore, we have to call job 2 in our callback directly. That is why we are calling job 2 in our code directly. So this is the kind of code which is forcing us to have monolithic design, because each callback must know the next callback. Like here, our job one's callback should know the next callback to be called. So that's the thing that it will make it worse. And if we have so many callbacks, then we know that what's going to happen, it will be unmanageable. Like I can give you an example where we have so many jobs running one after another, something like this. First we are calling job one, and inside job one we are passing a callback which I've highlighted, and that callback is calling something, do something one, and then it is calling job 2. Job 2 again have a callback, and it's calling do something function, and then it's calling job 3. Job 3 again have a callback, it's calling do something 3. Then it's calling job 4 in turn. Job 4 again have a callback, and then it's calling some function. So if you see, there is so many nested label, and this is known as pyramid of doom. We call it pyramid of doom, also known as callback hell. So this is one of the issue what we face while working with callbacks, that once we have so many nested level of callbacks or dependencies of some job into another, then we end up having this unmanageable code. Next problem what I can see is, if we have to join multiple asynchronous calls, like imagine we want to execute some code when job 1 and job 2 are done, then also we have issue. Like let's say I want to do something, like I want to run job 3, and what I want to do is need to be sure that job 1 and job 2 are already done, then only I'm going to call job 3. So I need to join two promises together, right? Job 1 and job 2, and once that is done, then I'll call job 3. So maybe I can do something like this. I'll have a counter variable which is initialized to 0. I have this job 1. Job 1 is calling something, do something 1 function. It says incrementing the counter value. And here we have this check that, okay, if counter is 2, then done. Similarly, in job 2, we have counter is equal to 2, then done. And in done, we are doing call. Like basically done, we want to call only once both of these jobs, job 1 and job 2 finishes off. Let's say first the job 1 get finished, counter will be 1. Then job 2 will be called, and it will increment the counter, and the counter is 2, then we are calling done. And maybe job 2 finishes up first, then job 1 finishes up, then we'll end up here, and anyhow we will be calling done. But just look at it, there is a repetition and it's very unmanageable. So with more and more asynchronous code and features, we need something to manage it, and here we have our savior, and that is the promise class. So I've already introduced promise class, but yeah, will again discuss it here. So first of all, we need to know that how we can initialize a promise. So for creating a promise, we can instantiate an object of a promise class available in JavaScript like this. So this is the way it returns us a new promise. We can store it in a variable like this, and this promise will help us in in elevating the issues what we were facing with the callbacks. We can change the promise as well. We'll see all of that with an example, but let's take the example what we have already discussed in the last lecture, the last video, about fetching some products from an API, having this URL, using fetch object, which is fetch returns and promise. And that is why we are calling fetch, and we are giving a URL, and then we are writing then, because for resolving a promise, we need to have a then, or we need to have async await construct, which we are going to see later on. So we know that fetch or any function which returns promise, we need to join it with the then, and then we'll take a callback, and it will run only when this promise is resolved. By resolved means it is fulfilled, means it is done. Initially when fetch is being called, it returns a promise, but initially there is no value attached to it. It is neither fulfilled nor rejected. So basically it is not settled. So we call it settled once we get the value. So initially promise is in the pending state. Initially the state when we call it, anything which returns such a promise, the value of promise is pending, and once it resolves to success, then we get a success or fulfilled. Basically the status will become fulfilled, and if it gets rejected, then it will come in the catch block, and the status will be rejected. But either it fulfills or rejected means the promise has settled and it is no longer in the pending state. So it's for promise, the state can be either pending, fulfilled, or rejected. So these are the some of the states. Initial value will be always pending. So this is the way we can use dot then with promise, and the then block will need a callback, and this callback will run only when we finish our promise or promise get resolved. either this callback which is inside then, or it will come under the catch block. The catch also takes a callback, and it will run only once promise get rejected. Promise get the status as rejected. So before going further deeper into promise, we'll try to understand what is event queue in JavaScript. So basically, JavaScript, as we have discussed in the previous lecture, has a single thread and we call it a main thread. And main thread is responsible for all the execution, all the synchronous execution happen. But what happens to all these async operation like set timeout, set interval, or API call, or any input output operation, or anything like fetching a detail about a file content. So all these things will be taken care by the browser's web APIs. There are some APIs which are related to the browsers, and all these async operations have a dedicated web APIs associated with it. For an example, here we are calling an API. So there is a separate web API for this which will handle this, and it will not be handled by the main thread, rather it will be taken up by that. And all these web APIs will process this thing, and whenever that is completed, it will put it in the event queue. So I'll just write it for the sake of understanding that main thread main thread is the thread which basically do all the executions of the synchronous code, and it uses the stack, the call stack. But this async code or the web APIs uses the event queue. So event queue is something which will be used by the web APIs, and event queue will have all these things queued. Async code will get queued in the same order it has come, and once our main thread is free, then event loop will put the process or the event, or the async event rather, from the queue to the call stack, so that main thread will take care of the processing. So that's how thing happens. Main thread will be executing all the things which are present in the synchronous code flow. Whenever something async code comes up, it will be taken care by the web APIs, and web APIs will put it in the event queue. And if it is a queue, it is a FIFO, the first in first out, so order will be maintained and async code will be queued. And when main thread is free, then event loop will put the process or async event from the queue to the call stack, so that the main thread will take care of the processing. And that's how we are efficiently managing our async code as well. So again, I'll repeat, these async code are not directly taken care by main thread, rather it will be taken care by the web APIs, which goes to the event queues, then finally it comes to the call stack, and then it will be processed by the main thread. So I hope that this point is very clear, and this is very important, and it is being asked in so many interviews. So you need to be so clear with this concept. Now, coming again, and we'll discuss more about the promises versus callbacks. So promises have some similarities to old style callbacks, because as we can see here, this fetch is returning a promise, and it is essentially returning an object where we are attaching the callback functions. So as you can see, it has returned an object where we are doing this dot then, and we are attaching our callback. So basically promise is kind of also using callback, but through the object. So here we are not passing the callbacks to the function directly, like in the fetch we are not passing any arguments, any callbacks here, but we are passing it to the object. This fetch is returning an object, and we are passing our callback in that object, that is a promise object. So there is some difference. However, the promises are specifically made for handling async operations, and it has many advantages over old style callbacks. We can chain multiple async operation, like as explained here. First we are returning the JSON format of the response, and then we are getting the JSON formatted data. So basically these two things, this one, the first one, and this another then, are nothing but they are being chained. And look, they are being chained and they are not inside each other. Like in the callback, we were calling job one inside job two inside job one. So unlike that callback, here chaining is very easy to do. So we can chain multiple async operation together using multiple dot then block as we are doing it here, passing the result from one to the next one. So here we got the response and then we are JSONified, or we are making the JSON response and we are returning it. And this return value is nothing, because you should be knowing that from the then block, if you return something, it will return as an promise. So this another then block is basically trying to resolve that promise. And the first then block is returning some data, that is response.json, and the second then block is getting that inside in the callback as a JSON, this JSON object. So one promise or one call then block is returning the result onto the another one. And this is much harder to do with the callbacks, which often ends up with a messy pyramid of doom, whatever we have explained before, or the callback hell. Promise callbacks are always called in a strict order. They are placed in the event queue. So this callbacks, what we were seeing here, this promise callbacks, which is inside then, this all goes to the event queue. These are not like the callbacks, which are basically being handled, by the call stack directly. So error handling is much better in promises. All errors are handled by a single catch block. We no need to have uh, error handling for each of the blocks. Like we have this job one. Let's say if something happens, something bad happens inside this, so we need to have some mechanism to handle that separately. Or similarly for job 2 we should handle it separately. Similarly for job 3 we have to handle it separately. Same goes for job 4. But here in our case, we can have a single catch block and we can handle all of it separately. So what I'm trying to make a point here is, if we see the callbacks, like this is in one example where we are choosing the topping for a pizza and then placing the order, then we are collecting the order, and then we are eating the pizza. So the first one, if you see, this is the callback we have given for the choosing the topping, and we have passed another callback, that is failure callback. Like something bad happens here, so handle with this callback. And similarly for placing order, we are again passing failure callback to handle if something goes bad. So we are basically handling it individually. So error handling is much better in promises. All errors are handled by a single catch block, unlike the callbacks where the error are being handled individually at each level of the pyramid. So now coming back to the this this example of pizza, that how we could have written the same thing in the promises way. So we could have called the toppings function, and then we could have uh, resolved it through then. Once we got the result of choose topping function, we get the toppings and then we place the order. And once we place the order and we are basically returning it from here. And this is a ES6 syntax, which is pretty simple to write. We could have written something like this if it would not have been ES6, something like this. We have just simplified. So to make you understand, I'll write it like that way, so that you understand that then block has this callback where we are getting the values as topping. The result is toppings, and we got the topping, so we are calling another function place order, and we should return the output of this. And if we are returning something from a then block, that again becomes a promise. That is why we can chain it, and we can use another then block here, and here we'll get the value which has been returned by the place order, and that is why we are naming it as order here. And then we are calling collect order. Whatever collect order being called, it is returning here. So it is a ES6 syntax where we are not writing the curly braces, we are just calling this function, and by default we have the return statement written. And also in this argument you were seeing that I'm not wrapped it with the curly braces. The reason, sorry, the parenthesis, the reason being, if there is a single argument, we no need to have wrapped it with the parenthesis. So the collect order will again is being returned, the output of that function is being returned, and that we have got here as pizza, and then we are calling our function eat pizza, and then this is further not returning anything. That is why we are not chaining to a further then block, and at the end we have this catch block where we are just passing the failure callback, because anyhow then on catch both just needs a callback. So either we write a function directly here or we just pass it a callback, both will work fine. So we can again change our thing to the yes syntax. It is very nicer, crispier and shorter, and it looks very easy to understand as well. We could have also simplified this thing into this. We could have just written it in a single line like place order, and because place order is nothing but a function, and function we can pass as a callback. Function is nothing but a callback, so in then it expects a callback, so we can just write place order here, collect order here, eat pizza here. These are functions which have been passed as an argument, so basically these are the callbacks, and then in the catch. So it could have been like this, and that is very nice and simpler. So that is, so this is much better. It is easier to see that what is going on. We only need a single catch block to handle all the errors. It does not block the main thread. Here main thread is not being blocked. When we call the choose toppings, it will take its time and it will go to the queue as explained before. Main thread will be doing something else. So while we have ordered the pizza, we can play video games and we can wait for pizza to be ready to be collected, and each operation is guaranteed to wait for the previous operations to complete. So collect order will wait for the place order, and eat pizza will wait for the collect order. That is guaranteed to be waiting for the previous thing to finish off. So that is the importance of the promises, that we can chain multiple asynchronous action through promises, and this action occur one after another, and this way have been possible through then block. And again I'll repeat, then block returns a new promise. So whatever will return from the then block, it will return a new promise, and that promise will get resolved only when we'll use another then block to resolve that. So we'll again do a small recap of what we have discussed. So when a promise is created, it is neither in a success or a failure state. It is said to be the pending state. When a promise returns, it is said to be resolved. When a promise returns, it is said to be resolved or settled. A successfully resolved promise is said to be fulfilled. It returns a value which can be accessed by chaining a then block onto the end of the promise chain like this. And a unsuccessful resolved promise is said to be rejected. It returns a reason for the rejection, an error message stating why the promise was rejected. This reason can be accessed by chaining a dot catch block onto the end of the promise chain. So what we have discussed is that whenever a promise is created, it is neither in a success or a failure state. It is said to be pending state. So initially the value will be pending. When the promise returns, it is said to be resolved, and this resolve can be either fulfilled or rejected. So if it is a successful resolve, then it is a fulfilled promise. If it is an unsuccessful resolve, then it is a rejected promise. And if we want to get the rejected promise, then we have to use the catch block, and the successful one, if we want to see the success value, the fulfilled value, then we have to use the then block. So this is what we have discussed. And now at last I'll tell you there is another way to resolve the promises, means get the value from the promises, and that is known as the async await. So before going deeper into the async await, we need to understand what async await is. First of all, we have the async keyword, which you put in front of a function declaration to turn it into a async function. So a function can be a normal function when we don't write async to it, but once we append a keyword async, this function becomes a async function. A async function is a function that knows how to expect the possibility of the await keyword being used to invoke asynchronous code. So we'll see how. So let's say I have a function called hello, and it is just returning a key string hello. When we call this hello function, we'll get the string called hello. So this function is not doing anything special. This is just returning a string value called hello. Let's say if I put a keyword here, async, then what will happen? Now, if we invoke this function, it will not return this string hello, rather it will return a promise. This is one of the traits of the async function. So earlier when there was no keyword async associated with this hello function, it was a normal function and it was just returning a string value hello. Once we put this async keyword to this function, this has become a async function and it no longer directly returns this value hello, means the string value hello, rather it is returning a promise. And if we call hello like this, it won't work. What we have to do is we have to call hello and then we have to basically use a then block to resolve the promise. So we need to invoke it differently. So that is the difference. And also we could have written this function, this hello function as a function expression as well. Like this, we can use const here. That is also fine. So the function expression way also can be used, and also if we use ES6 syntax, so we can simplify it a bit and we can use the arrow function, the arrow notation of arrow function like this. So this is another way to write, to simplify just a ES6 syntax to actually consume the value returned when the promise fulfilled. So basically this hello, when we'll call it, it will return a promise, and if we want to resolve that, then we need to use a then block. So what we can do is we'll call hello like this and then we'll use then, and then inside this we can get the value and we can console this value like this. And if we have to simplify it a bit, we don't even need all of this, then just needs a function. So we can just give it a console.log function and it will take care of it. It is even just a shorthand of that. So async keyword is added to the function to tell them, async keyword is added to the function to tell them to return a promise rather than directly returning the value. Now coming to the await keyword, because till now I was just explaining the async. What is await? So the advantage of a async function only becomes apparent when we combine it with the await keyword. So async function is of no use until unless we use it with the await. Okay, so we need to use await inside the async function with a regular JavaScript code. Okay, so async can be put in front of a async promise based function to pause our code on that line until the promise fulfills, then return the resultant value. So let's say we have this function as the hello function again, and what we are doing is from here we are returning a promise, because if we are using promise.resolve and we are giving a value, so basically we are wrapping hello inside a promise, and promise.resolve will return a promise which is going to be resolved for sure. It's never going to be rejected, but it's just going to be resolved and it is just returning a promise. We are using await keyword. So what await will do? Await will pause the execution of this line. It will tell the thread or whoever is taking care of it that until unless this line is completed finishing its task, don't execute the further lines. Let's say if I don't write return here and do something like console, if I do some console statement here, let's say I print my name here, so it won't come to this line until unless this asynchronous task finishes off. So await pauses the execution until the async code finishes its operation. So it will pause it till this promise.resolve gets resolved and it gets the value, then only it will go to the next line. So if you just compare with the normal synchronous code, what happens? Once this line gets executed completely, then only will execute the next line. That's what happens in the synchronous code, right? So async await is a construct which help us in writing the asynchronous code in a synchronous manner. But actually the async programming or async code is there and it's working as expected. It's just like it is being written in a way that it gives us a look of the synchronous code, but everything is working as it is, as it should have been, and it is working in the asynchronous way only. Only thing is it looks like getting executed in a synchronous way. Anyhow, whenever we'll call this hello function, it will be taken care by a web API. It will not taken care by the main thread directly. It will go to the event queue. It will wait there until it finishes of its task. Here it just promise.resolve. It will finish it immediately, and then it will wait for the main thread to be free. How main thread will become free? When the call stack is free. When call stack is empty, event loop will put this thing from the queue to the call stack, and main thread will process this, and then main thread will process this line because this is already being done. So that's how async await works. Okay, and like we can do something like this. Hello, we call and then we'll alert it. And if we take our previous example, what we were seeing before, the pizza one, I'll just write that here again, this choose topping. If I convert it to async await, then what we can do is we can write it in a way like this. We have written a wrapper function called start, that is a function expression, and that function we have given a keyword called async to make it as a async function. And we know that async function returns a promise, and what we are doing here is we are using await keyword. So await can only be used when inside a function where the function is a async function. We can't use await keyword directly inside a function or anywhere. It needs a parent function to be async, then only await can be used. Now what we are doing is we are calling a choose topping and we are waiting till we get the topping. Then once we get the topping, then we calling the place order by providing the toppings. Then it is placing the order, and then we'll wait here. Await will make us wait here. That wait, once we get the value top order, then we'll get the order value here, and then we'll make a call to collect order and we'll pass the order, and then again we'll have to wait here. Await will make us wait until we get the value from here. We get the value from here, we'll store it in a pizza variable, and then at last we'll eat the pizza and we'll keep waiting until unless we eat the pizza. Another interesting thing here is while we are using async await, we can't use a catch like something like this what we were using with then. Instead, what we can use is we can wrap all of our code inside a try block, and if something bad happens or some of the promises get rejected rather than fulfilled, then it will come inside the catch, and here we'll have that callback run, and here we have that error mess object from where we can get the error message as well. So this code is being changed to this. At last we just need to call this wrapper function start here, and again it returns a promise, so we can do this then thing here as well, because we know that start is a async function, so definitely it will have a promise returned from inside. So that is why we can do something like this. So yeah, at the end we can have it then, but yeah, all of the things we can wrap it in, and look, it's looking so nice. It's looking like we are using a synchronous code only. We are calling choose topping, then place order, then collect order, and we are waiting for it. So it's a very nicer way, it's a very cleaner way to use. So nowadays, after the advent of the ES6, ES7, and async await has come before, I think it's there since 3 years or even more than that. So nowadays people use this kind of code rather than this one. And in the earlier times, when promises were not there, we used to have the callbacks like this, and this was really a messed up thing and very unmanageable. So we have really made a great progress the way we are handling the async code. So guys, I'll stop here and I'll again tell you what we have studied. We have seen the benefit of async code, why it is good, and what are the downside of the callback, because for using async code we need to either use callback or promises. So first we started using callback to handle the async code, but there was some downside with the callback, and then due to that we got introduced to promises, and promises are very nicer to use with and to work with, and it has handled so many disadvantages of the callback. And then at last we have got to know about async await, which are just a way to handle the promises, to resolve the promises in a way. It is basically a syntactical sugar on the promises, and it's a very nicer way to handle the promises, to resolve the promises, and it gives us a feeling of a synchronous code. So we have looked all of this thing together. In the next video, we'll cover a lot more into the promises. We'll see some examples and some pitfalls of the promises, or some people use it in a wrong way, they don't know. So we'll see all of that, and at last we'll take some objective type questions, and we'll see some tricky questions as well. So we'll go into more practical approach towards the promises, because we got to know about the nuances and everything around the promises callbacks. But now it's time to get our hand dirty with some code and also try to understand, try to build our concept even better using some tricky and some examples. So yeah, till then, bye guys. And please guys, you people are not subscribing to my channel. I have so many videos and I'm putting the videos regularly now, so please go and subscribe it and spread the word. Tell your friends that they can also go to the channel and take the benefit of all of the things I put here. And also please like the video if you find it useful. Until then, we'll meet you in the next video. Till then, bye guys.